This is Assassin's Creed Liberation Remastered. We're on Xbox Series X. So this is kind of a part of Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, but it does have some interesting separate elements of it that I think improve the experience. So what we get here is actually a native 4K resolution because it inherits its Xbox One X enhancement, HDR support, and 30 FPS, which is a little bit disappointing. But we do also get some improvements to the actual, kind of environments. They're a little bit more dense, there's a little bit more to them, and yeah, it's just kind of a much more lively New Orleans location that you get to visit and explore. So this is an interesting take on Assassin's Creed. It's definitely a smaller in scope entry in the series, while being very much in line with, Assassin's Creed 3, because they were around the same period of time. It's just neat to see how this one has... Jeez! People are just clubbing me. It's neat to see that this one has continued to be supported in terms of being carried forward, because, you wouldn't necessarily think that this would be one of the entries in the series that they would kind of continue with. Why am I being attacked so aggressively by everyone? But yeah, they're really good, and you can kind of say that, Ubisoft at least, in regards to making sure that their older titles are, still available and playable and upgraded and carried forward, which I think is kind of important for the legacy of games. And it's nice to just have this available, because it is a very different take on Assassin's Creed. So you still get like the whole, historical element, the missions, the goals, the things you have to find, the collectibles and all that. But this one's a lot more about, I don't know if you would say stealth, but it's a game that's much more about being an individual that has to kind of hide, be creative in how she's tackling situations in a time where, things were a little bit less great for this individual. But yeah, it's kind of a neat entry in the series. It's a lot smaller again in scope. It's not a huge area. Like, it goes out a bit, but it's definitely not a massive thing. It's something that you could tackle a lot quicker than you could the other Assassin's Creed titles. But I still think it's a fairly memorable time and something a little bit unique to play if you want a different perspective in the Creed series, with an interesting lead character and some neat surrounding ones as well. Of course, with many of the staples and things that you would do in the Creed series, it's just provided in a smaller scope, I guess you could say, a more precise sort of setting, and a ladylike one as well, which is kind of neat. But yeah, it's a cool option to have available, and I think if you're jumping into 3, that maybe you also give this one a bit of a whirl and a chance, because you might find it surprising. It actually does deliver some neat cinematic moments, and it holds up quite well considering where this came from. It is really nice to see that they actually did take the time to bring it forward. Because again, I really thought that this would be kind of a almost forgotten, entry in the series. And if you've seen where I checked out Assassin's Creed 3, it's obviously borrowing a lot of the sort of upgrades and mechanic elements that we saw. Ooh. For puzzles that we saw in that one, which I think is kind of cool. And again, a little bit of detective work, a little bit of discovery, a little bit of trying to figure out what exactly is going on, and working to do your creedful work in this different location. It's mostly just fun to kind of present this one and give it its own highlight, because it might not necessarily be the thing that everyone really is eager to jump into, but I do feel that this deserves a little bit of a showcase and everything like that. Oh yeah, the guard charming, that's always fun. Could you get out of the way? Yes, thank you. But yeah, it's kind of neat, but again, it's just a little bit smaller in terms of the scope and the scale of what it's trying to provide. Still a really great time, quite a lot of fun, and just a smaller, easier sort of story to do. Still with those signature elements of play that make this series so fun, right? Obviously the stealth and all that, it's just kind of entertaining. Okay, we'll go into Eagle Vision. Are you happy? Are you happy that we're in Eagle Vision, searching for clues like it's Scooby-Doo or something? But yeah, it's kind of like visually, I think, fairly impressive. It really is kind of a fascinating sort of creation and release in the series. I just think it's really, you know, different. Definitely a unique style in terms of like what you're doing concept-wise, and the character, and the lore and the location, how it kind of expands and fits into the overall narrative of Assassin's Creed. Again, I really don't think that you need to have played any of the other entries in order to check this out and appreciate what the smaller scope can kind of provide in this one. So yeah, it's also, you know, you again play into these different roles as a character of the time, the historic elements of it, and it feels like really dense and lively. It feels fairly accurate considering, you know, where this came from as a title. You know, I think it was like the Vita and stuff. So it's sort of breathtaking almost that we can get these sorts of boosts for older titles and have them look so delightful and enchanting. Like, it looks really gritty and everything and captures the landscape well. Being a different setting, that's what I really like about the Creed games, is you can kind of, you know, jump into them and you get all of these different settings and time periods and characters and locations. And of course we've got that fun element of being an assassin. And the stealth is a little bit more, you know, I guess you could say a little more challenging and difficult in this time period, but at the same time it's still interesting, it's still different. And I also like what you're kind of doing in this one behind the scenes, if that makes sense. Ooh, that's not good. You don't want that. Dude, fist bump, yeah. It's just kind of, you know, different time period, different setting, different goals, and what the whole future element of it is mostly what I'm trying to say is kind of a little bit cool. But we're not really in a point where we're running around climbing things like we normally would be, because we're in like a bit of a story structured part of it, right, where things are more focused, you're more blending in, and it's less about going about battling folks at the particular moment in time. You know, there are obviously more elements to it, and the scope and everything changes a lot over the course of what you're doing in this one. Oh, really? Unbelievable. Go back to my fisticuffs. I don't know, it's just a neat game, and I did want to highlight it by itself so that you might be able to, or at least consider checking out, because I think it's got cool visuals, it's a neat part of like the remastered bundle, and it's got some pumped up environmental aspects and character aspects and design elements that I think are kind of fun. So anyways, that's Assassin's Creed Liberation Remastered.